Hey guys, this is Otis coming with you from the magic of video editing. We didn't know when we originally recorded this podcast that it was going to be 3 hours long, and we've decided that we're going to do it in three parts. This is part one. This is House of Thousand Corpses, and without further ado, our feature presentation. Let's start this off. I think the one thing that really started off all these movies was the fact that Rob Zombie started filming his own music videos prior to this, and he was given the opportunity to come up with Universal Studios of a horror film. This was after he quit White Zombie, or White Zombie dissolved. See however you will. Rob Zombie went on a solo career with the debut album Hellbilly Deluxe. And for those who aren't a fan of his music, it's alright. His music is not for everybody. I am a Rob Zombie fan of his music. I have played a couple of his songs. I know there's nothing special to playing a Rob Zombie song. Like, I know how to play Dracula on acoustic guitar, and most of his music is more on the synthesizer and on distortion techniques, and there's a lot of effects to his music, which doesn't take his music down, but it's not per se how you'd listen to Slayer, where all you need is distortion and you can play Slayer. With Rob Zombie, there's a lot of horror movie talks within his music and all that stuff, and so he was given the ball to basically make his own movie, and he wasn't even prepared. I don't know if you've heard the story, but he was just like, I wasn't prepared for this. I just came up with like a paragraph worth of stuff. And basically, the first movie was shot with almost script changes on the weekly or daily, one of those two. I also have the new chat box right up here near Wolverine.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, we're making sure everyone can see it. As you guys can also see, we have it full screen now instead of like background and all that stuff. But going back into the background, let's we're already talking about the prehistory. Let's not forget there's a lot of actors in the first movie that Rob Zombie has previously worked with in his music videos. Like Captain Spaulding does appear in Feel So Good or Feel So Numb. Like he's kind of like the sailor dancing with Bailey.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
Oh yeah, I did my homework on this one, man.
You really did, man.
And so he was able to film this movie. But when he brought it to the studios, when he brought it to the studio, where is it? There was one that I put down in the notes. So it was shot in 2000, released in 2003. Zombie initially went with Universal until Stacy Snyder feared the film was going to receive an NC-17 rating.
What?
NC-17 rating. It would not be able to be shown in theaters. It would not be able to make any of the money back. And I think this movie at least had a budget of 7 million. So when you have that much money, if you're not making money off a $7 million film,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to release it. It's money first with a lot of these executives. Um, MGM later agreed to release the film until Zombie made remarks how they have no morals. Like Zombie said that, and MGM cut themselves up. It wasn't until Lionsgate released the film after there were a lot of cuts made. Now, sadly, this is before the time of almost everything filmed on movie sets are always kind of saved in an archive of some sort. There are now missing scenes from this movie that no one will ever see except for the film actors, the people who saw the original cut, and all that. They will not be seen. We have lost media here. I don't know if you knew any of that.
Dude, all this is new information
Okay.
to me.
So, and I also did write, Zombie does hate this film because whenever he's watching this film, he's seeing flaw after flaw after flaw with the first one.
So does he specifically say what parts?
He doesn't go into it, but as a guy that watches a lot of movies, there are some cringe scenes for me. An example, when they're first robbing Captain Spaulding, the guy busts through the door, and they do this. The guy turns around like 3 times for some weird reason. There's a lot of scenes here that look like they belong more in a music video or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of scenes that if they would have had the original couple takes, like they completely removed the character of the skunk ape. There was supposed to be a skunk ape person in this film. The scrap scenes are mostly of the scrap scenes was scrap character was named Skunk Ape. Many scenes were shot in Zombie's basement.
Really?
Yeah. There's scenes in this film where it looks like Baby and Otis are filming themselves, and that's actually an inspiration from the Manson family.
Mm.
I'll go into inspirations for the characters very soon.
That's going to be like majority of the podcast, isn't it?
The film grossed $16.3 million. 16.8 million, which made double its money back, which Zombie already had a sequel planned out. The sequel, by far, is my favorite movie of the trilogy. That, if you watch 30 Days of Hell, you'll just understand that I'm just repeating. Grueling filming schedule. Everybody seemed to be happy, but there was a lot of studio interference with the film. Basically, the idea of this film is how can we make these horrible characters into kind of like outlaws and all that stuff, like the classic Billy the Kid and all that stuff. How do we make
Bonnie and Clyde.
how do we make these guys more likable? Well, you introduce the dead cop's brother to the plot of the second film. In this film, you learn that all the characters are nicknames. For example, Captain Spaulding has 2 nicknames. His name is Captain Spaulding, named after a Groucho Marx film, or a Groucho Marx character. And you have Cutter, which was a nickname his half brother gave him. There was also a history of them where they talk about how Cutter was an orphan adopted by black parents, in the 1940s. Um, Apparently, they burnt down his dad's house with them inside, and then he was known as the candy cane killer, where they would find these dead prostitutes with a candy cane shoved up either their pussy or their ass. I really wish I was making all this shit up, but there was a website for the Devil's Rejects back in around the time this film was made with backstories to all the characters. So take with that as you will. Um, that's just an example of one character getting the Groucho Marx nickname. Most characters in these films are named after Groucho Marx. But you gotta remember at the time when Rob Zombie was, growing up, these are movies that he basically wanted to see. Like the first one was more of a grindhouse. Like you can honestly go and see all these on like a drive-through movie, and I bet the projector actually adds a lot to it. But yeah, so at the end of Devil's Rejects, there's a scene where we'll get into
I think that's probably my favorite scene of the movie.
the Freebird scene.
Yep.
Yeah. Where these characters appear dead, and even for years you get Sid Haig and Bill Moseley being like, people want to know when a third film's coming out. There can't be a third film. Why? Because we're fucking dead. Rob Zombie in 2019 started filming a third film. Now, people who know me knew how amped up I was for this film. And with being so amped up, you can only fly so high before you get burnt and then it just plummets down. I'm not the biggest fan of the third movie. But it does end on a good note where these guys are in Mexico. Now, those are all three films. A film trilogy basically made off a paragraph of what Zombie said in a Universal shoot. Now, let's start at the beginning. Let's start before we go into these films of the three main characters. That being Otis, Baby, and Spaulding. We will talk about their connections with the Firefly family. And we will also talk about how each film was shot differently, even though I do not believe the third film is any different than the second film.
So it would now be a good time to kind of go into what I think what I kind of want to talk about. It's just like, are all these movies connected? Are they actual sequels, or are they meant to be each of their own films?
All right. So
It's whatever you want to do there, man.
As I've stated before on this opinion, he leaves too much of the original or the previous film in the next film scene. And what I'll mean is you do not get a police raid if the cop from the first movie doesn't die in the first movie. You don't get these guys surviving a barrage of gunfire unless these guys are tried for their previous crimes. I love the theory, and the thing is, I never want people to be like, oh, Danky says this, so there can't be any more opinions on it. If you have a better opinion than me and I can see your thought process, please tell me. I love being wrong so I can learn and then be right.
Because for me, the way I see it is, because they're not numbered 1, 2, or 3 or anything like that. But I like the idea that they're each their own movie, because the end of the first one, they they were still not in custody or anything like that, and it just showed the fish boy pretty much, right? That was the end scene of the first one.
First one ends with her in Doctor
Oh,
Satan's chair.
when she fucking ends up in Spaulding's car.
Yeah, and then Otis is in the back seat.
Yeah, and then so they're still like running free, and then the second one it starts off with that police raid. But I like to think of it as they would have been raided regardless, because a lot of people went missing. There's probably a lot of complaints about that property, and there's a lot of suspicion on them in the first place. So that's what I like to think. But
Yeah,
then there's a brother from the previous film, or the brother
yeah,
of the cop in the previous film.
that's the only one where I'm like, there's tiebacks to the first film.
But then they could still, like, in another timeline, they could have killed them as he was like investigating like another. So three timelines: the first one, second one, third one. The first timeline, just happened their way, but then in this one, I think that the brother of the, yeah, the brother of the cop. They were both cops though. The original one, the first one. I like to think that he was already killed by them
Yeah,
in a different manner. So I still think that could have happened. But then and then the end of the second one, I believe they firmly do die, because there ain't no way they would
yeah.
come back from that.
They even say in the third one it was a 1 in a million chance for one of them to survive. Not alone all three of them to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the theory because I get the whole not naming movies 1, 2, and 3, but a lot of other movies don't always have the 1, 2, or 3 with them. I think the one I can come to mind is Alien, Aliens 3, then Prometheus and Romulan and all that stuff. They're not titled
Yeah.
all those. Like the other one is the Chucky series with Bride of Chucky, Cult of Chucky,
Seed of.
Seed of Chucky, where you do know that they all kind of line up. No, I'm not going to sit here and poke holes in your theory.
No, but
I like the theory.
like the reason, like, it's not too much for people. Like, I can still see it as like a trilogy of series, but the reason why I brought that up is because Rob Zombie himself says that this is meant to be three separate films.
Yeah.
So if there's meant to be three separate films, how do they all line up together to be and reference each other movie?
Like, I understand that as a director you can say that, but then why are they shot very similar, and why do they have a lot of, like, in the second one they mentioned that 7 months after this officer goes missing. It's just it's too if you're going to have them as different characters, like how the American Horror Story does it, where they have the same actors, wouldn't you want to, like, I don't know, because when you have a clown that plays the same clown through all three movies, or you have okay, here's an example. You know Rocky, right? You know the Rocky movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know how Sylvester Stallone's in Creed.
Yeah,
Is that the same Rocky from Rocky 1?
absolutely.
That's my only point. Where I could see them as three separate films for the director's sake of stuff, but I do have to say how they flow in a straight stream, how they kind of flow into each other. And the other problem is not problem, but the other thing is they all have the same name.
Mm-hmm.
So I get how some directors can be like, that's not like, I think there was a handful of different directors for the Rocky movies too, and directors love to tell their own story while they're filming as well. Like if you look at Apocalypse Now and all that stuff, and there's another movie that goes with Apocalypse Now that's them filming it, and it's a lot more of a grueling film than you get in Apocalypse Now. Get some of the shots. But we should probably just say they can be from three separate timelines, but just for the sake of this topic tonight, they are the same characters in three different films. Because I don't want to start the next one being like, so the Fireflies are based off of, they're based off of the Manson family and the Bloody Benders.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to state that I don't know if you've heard of the Bloody Benders before.
No, I was actually going to ask about that.
So the Bloody Benders is seen as America's first serial killer family.
What?
Yes.
What are they called again?
Bloody Benders.
I'm looking this up.
Yeah. They were a German family of four with an old John, a young John, old Kate, and a young Kate. And it was this family that settled on this farm. Did I get the names right?
Okay, what'd you say the names were?
John Bender,
Yep.
John Bender
It almost
Jr.,
like different outcomes that could have
Kate.
happened in my opinion.
and Kate Sr.
Nope.
Mary?
No, this one's actually kind of cool.
Karen.
Nope. Think about iconic females in horror metal genre.
Sherry?
Nope.
All right, well,
Like we're talking about like the most iconic of the female ever. But for horror.
we should probably...
Elvira.
Elvira. Oh, okay, yeah. So, it's this family, and they used to have guests stay at their house. And Kate would give them, like, a fortune telling, as one of the other vendors is on the other side of this, like, sheet. She would tell them to sit on the back of the sheet, and if they were wealthy at the time, they would actually kill them with a hammer, or they would hit them with a hammer, throw them in their cellar, and then come back and slit their throats. There's a lot better people who know the story more than I do, but as inspiration for this movie, there's a lot of people saying that they're like that. I like to think that they have more in common with the Manson family than the Bloody Benders. I think the Bloody Benders is used as inspiration for these guys, as they were sought off, like they were looked at by the cops, told them that they weren't under arrest, but they're under suspicion, and later that same day they just took off, never be seen again. They were never brought to justice. They were kind of on the run. So there's similarities until I get Rob Zombie's confirmation that they were inspired by the Bloody Benders. I'm not saying I 100% say that they are, but there was stuff online that said that they were based off of the Manson family and the Bloody Benders. Now, the easier one to say who he's based off of is Captain Spaulding.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Spaulding is 100% based off of both John Wayne Gacy and a little bit of Ted Bundy.
Now, how would you say Ted Bundy?
His last words when he gets executed is "Give my love to my family and friends." The exact same words Ted Bundy used when he died. Now, I'm just saying that one quote was inspired by Ted Bundy. on the whole character.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's even points where in the first movie where he moves his arm over and there's actually John Wayne, the cowboy, that took on his arm,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, rustle up them pilgrim, or rustle up some grub there, pilgrim. Or something along that line, where the guy's like, whatever you say, I'm more of a space boy.
No, in the first one, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hey, random question. Where's the skeleton?
I think he went on vacation.
Oh,
He's in Bonneville.
that's
He drives his Bonneville car all the way to Bonneville.
I don't know. I don't know, man. He didn't have the guts to do it.
Ah,
Sorry, continue.
yeah.
I was just curious.
So, I did write down all the Firefly family members from the first film. So we have, and I also wrote down Captain Spaulding's group of friends.
So, what was Captain Spaulding's actual name in the? What was his like first name? Because
They call him Cutter.
without you already said that was his nickname.
Alias. Yeah, that was a nickname.
Yes. What was it?
The hard thing is they don't say their name. They say baby's name and Captain Spaulding's name.
Johnny Lee Johns.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to see one thing here.
Otis's real name is Greg. I just want to see if Otis Driftwood actually has a first name. I don't think they actually give him an actual name. Full name unknown.
What does the B stand for?
Uh, Butcher?
Oh.
I don't know.
So we're just looking stuff up
Yeah.
right now. I'm kind of going on my own thing right now. I'm still, I'm doing more research right now.
Yeah.
Cause I'm just looking up fun facts. Like right now, I'm trying to see.
So I'm not going to say the B really stands for anything. It might be a Groucho Marx thing where we'll have to look on the actual movie from Groucho Marx. Again, these characters are all named from Groucho Marx movies. So there's Baby, Otis, Tiny, Mama Firefly, Rufus, Grandpa Hugo, and Earl. Like Earl, aka Rufus. Earl is the dad with with Dr. Satan at the bottom.
Dr. Satan.
There's Captain Spaulding, Stucky, and Radley. So now it's kind of like how you like to do the movie reviews. I don't want to really go by scene.
Nope.
So the first scene of this movie is you get kind of like a weird B show horror kind of TV show going on. And then you're thrown into a commercial for Captain Spaulding, which, come on, like it's got the iconic lines of, "Hi folks, you like blood, violence, freaks of nature? Well, come on down to Captain Spaulding's Museum of Madman and Psychopaths. See the alligator boy, ride my famous murder ride, and don't forget to pick up some chicken."
Did you memorize all of that?
I've watched this movie so many
You have.
times.
I feel like you've seen this movie more than I've seen the thing.
So it then goes into, and I noticed that this watch around, there's a police car and the guy's eating some chicken as he's throwing stuff down to his dog. And as soon as the cops leave, these wannabe burglars go in and they try to rob Spalding's, which Spalding's having none of that shit. And he even gets to the point where he's sticking his fingers up in the air like, put your paws where I can see them, and he's just like that, where he's flipping it off and all that stuff. Like, and then he starts the whole line of "fuck your ma, fuck your grandma, fuck your sister," until like this guy in the front of the store comes in wielding an axe, hits this guy. Spalding shoots the guy that they were calling Little Dickwick. Richard Wick played with his prick. Wouldn't that make you sick? Again, I've seen this movie so many times. And then he shoots him. He goes up to the one guy and is just like, and most of all, fuck you. Oh, motherfucker, got blood all over my good clown suit. And then you get the Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses song that was released on Sinister Urge, I believe. And then you get the four mains, where there was Jerry, Bill, Mary, and Denise. Denise is, her dad is a retired law enforcement, and it's one of my cliches how one of the kids' parents is of a authority figure. It's a small trope that I've been seeing a lot of in horror films as of late, where one of the characters' parents is of police father or something along that lines. Be it army, be it anything like that. Like I just saw Anna in the Apocalypse. The one kid's dad is a part of the military. That was a fun movie, actually. Also with these guys, they run out of gas and have to go fill up at Spalding's. And this is where I'm not going to say we're going to end up like this one day, but we plan to eventually go and see a lot of horror stuff and film it and all that stuff. But these guys are pressing Captain Spaulding a lot to the point where he gets very testy with the one guy. He's like, "What, you all think that we people from the South are nothing but hicks and hook, 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 roast me up another, you asshole." Just all that whole scene.
And like he's getting closer and closer, and
Music's getting more intense.
it's like backing up, starts calling for his friends, like guys.
I piss this guy off.
And then he does the ultimate joking or something like that.
Just fucking with you.
Mm-hmm.
They go on his murder ride, and that's where they get the inspiration to go to another location. When the smart thing would have been, cool, we're done here for the night. Let's go home because people are waiting for us. No, they have to go see this tree where Captain Spaulding was supposedly hung. Because the whole thing is his body was missing the very next day and all that stuff. So Spaulding was really giving them the whole. I don't remember who they all had. They had Ed Gein, the butcher. They had
Something Fish.
Albert Fish.
Then
And-
Dr. Satan.
Then Dr. Satan. And yeah, so with each one you're actually given a couple scenes of who these guys are, and then Spaulding was a little bit more in your face. And this is another example where how Zombie would film was he would split some of the film up. Because when Captain Spaulding says Dr. Satan, he's split up into 3 panels. So there's some editing like that in this film that you don't see in his other films. So I'm thinking maybe that's where he's just like, oh, I can't watch this again. Oh, I can't watch this again.
He tries to make it into like one of his music videos.
Well, that's where he learned to originally direct. So he's going to have some list. Like, this movie is a great movie. It's a cult classic for sure. But when the director himself is just like, I see flaw after flaw after flaw, I do see a flaw while I'm revisiting these movies, I will let you guys know. So they're going down the road. They pick baby up. And then she's like, oh, I can show you where this is. And I think she must have taken them on a different route or as such. Because the very next scene, Rufus, who I feel bad for him in the next couple movies. And I'll state this before anything. If you would have had Rufus go to jail in the first or in the second film, you didn't need to replace Captain Spaulding with the Night Wolf. Because Rufus was already there. But anyways, he shoots the wheel. Then they must have both gone back because he needed his tow truck. There's a guy from the office who goes back with baby. I cannot remember his name. My wife watches The Office. He's the one that gets pranked all the time.
Rainn Wilson, that would have been Dwight?
Yeah. I think
Yes,
Bill is Dwight. The guy that plays Bill.
Yeah.
I think they're the same actor. So anyways, he goes back with baby to the farmhouse. He's the first one to go back. He's kind of put in like clothes that aren't his. They're kind of like more like farmer clothes and all that stuff. And baby's spending the entire time flirting.
Yeah.
Overalls.
She looks really good in his glasses, though.
Oh yeah. And they get saved by Rufus. Not saved. I can't say that they got saved. They basically get trapped there with a flat, and the family starts kind of mentally torturing them. The entire time, these walls have to be padded with something because you have these cheerleaders who went missing prior being tortured by Otis and Baby. So they must have like some really effective walls to keep the sound down.
Mm-hmm.
And do want to let everyone know this film was shot to be in 1970s. So they would not have cell phones, and there's a point where the kids are getting, hey, can I call my dad to let him know where we are? And then the mama Firefly's like, I don't got a phone.
Mm-hmm.
So Otis makes his appearance as the family. Well, you see Tiny for the first time. And Tiny was this mammoth of a man. And they tell the story about how he was burnt by his dad and all that. And then he goes, wakes Grandpa up. And they're having like dessert or something, but they have to be wearing their masks. Jerry the entire time just having the time of his life, acting like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Poking his head, asking, do you know the legend of Dr. Satan? And Otis does some really great lines. Like, I can honestly say some of my favorite lines in all three films are from Otis. He basically says, I bet you'd stick your head in the fire if I told you could see hell. Problem is, boy, you got a snake on your ass saying, holy God moly, I got me a live one. Something around that one. So yeah, date October 30th, 1977. So these guys basically have no real form of technology. And then they have like this kind of like Devil's Night celebration where Grandpa's doing comedy. Don't really find it like none of his jokes are really hitting, but like he's screaming into the mic a lot and all that. Uh, he would sadly never see this film because he died in a car accident. The actual actor. So he gives one hell of a performance. I think I know him only from this film. And after that, they leave because their cars fall. First of all, they get into a fight with Baby, and she's wielding a knife.
Mm.
And then they go to leave. They open the gate, and then Otis and Tiny basically are pretending to be like crucified scarecrows, and they go and attack them. And then the rest of the movie is basically the family torturing these guys. The next scene,
rabbit, run.
the next scene is famous for a lot of people because it's the brick house scene, and they show you guys who's been making all these gross figurines for Captain Spaulding. It's them. They make Dwight into Fish Boy. He is the first character of the four to be killed. They don't really kill anyone else till they're going to the Dr. Satan area of the film, but that's a couple scenes away. And then basically what happens is the dad calls the cops to basically say that his daughter didn't come home last night. And she's one of those kids that always lets me know where she's going, what she's doing, and she usually always calls. You know those people. Always call. Just let them know, like, hey, man, you're going to love what I did on last week's podcast. But just one of those people that, like, shows some responsibility with calling home just to let their parents know what's up. So the cops' names are George Wydell and Steve Nash. They go to Captain Spaulding's due to the fact that that was the last place they heard anybody was. So they go there, and he draws them a map after some very funny things where, have you seen this girl? Oh, she's a looker. Not my type, though. You know, I like girls with a little extra meat on the skins.
On the bones, a little more cushion for the
Oh,
pushy.
shit,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It just has no reaction. It's just like,
No, and he's laughing. And these cops are not happy. They're like, no, you're going to tell us where these kids are. And the cops find their car, but then they find one of the dead cheerleaders in said car. Now, I do know with these films we want to play fast and loose with the cops, but they would have had to report that in.
oh yeah.
They would have had to report a lot of stuff in. And upon going to the farmhouse, because I guess at this point they're just knocking on everyone's door to see where the kids are, and this house is like close to where Spalding had the map and all that stuff. So these two cops go there, and there's a lot of scenes I might be missing, such as Baby torturing the guy by, what's my favorite actress's name?
No, guess again.
No, tough choice. It's Betty Davis, and she basically scalps the guy.
Yeah, but that's not a crucial part of the film.
No, it's not important. So if you're like Danky, you guys usually go in more with your. We have 3 films to get through. We have
And
3 films.
And we're only halfway through the first one.
Yeah. So the most crucial scene where I say these films are connected is the cop goes and sits with Mama Firefly after Let's come in and she's showing him like random things. Is that you? You were on TV and like she's like showing photos of people who obviously isn't the guy. Like if you actually watch and like look at the, he's not the guy at all. And the other two, Denise's dad, which is Don Willis, and Steve Nash, go behind the house and discover Denise inside of a shed screaming. While all this is going through, before that actually happens, there's actually a scene that I want to talk about. So Otis and Hugo are actually watching the Munsters. And I actually found this kind of cool. They're watching the episode where Grandpa Munster is drag racing. Do you know what his vehicle is called?
Was it Dragula?
It was Dragula. So they're watching the episode that inspired Rob Zombie. And currently, as we're talking, Rob Zombie's last movie to come out was a remake of The Munsters.
Was that his last movie that he came out with?
Pretty sure.
I'm looking this up.
One of his later, Zombie would later make a monster movie. So.
Oh yeah.
So he would later remake The Munsters. It's an alright movie, but I would personally watch it in black and white if you really want to watch it. Last film?
Yeah, 2022.
When's the movie that we're 2019? So getting back, they're watching that, and then Mama Firefly is like, "Oh, Otis, the cops are always around. Well, there's one at the door. You know those things like to hunt in packs." So he goes around back. As soon as they open up the door, he basically kills Don, shoots him, and then he puts the other cop on his knees as a tracking shot comes back.
That's the most brutal. That's the most fucked up kill, in my opinion.
It was a good one.
The amount of time that passes when he's just holding the gun at him.
Yeah. I would say that's one of the scenes that is one of my top kills. That would probably be the top kill in the movie, even though Fish Boy is more iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone's like, here's Fish Boy, and there's all those memes where, you know, they've taken out Fish Boy and Otis is showing something to someone.
Mm-hmm.
So that meme's kind of out there. They grab booze, not important. Pussy Liquor's coming on, and a guy named Goober is selling the booze. And then they basically go back. The remaining three are kind of like on some kind of like spring thing, as everyone's wearing Halloween costumes. Now, everyone's wearing all right costumes, but Otis is probably wearing the best costume, because I don't know how he put two and two together, but the one girl's dad, he kind of figured out, oh, that's your dad, so I'm going to do this whole scene where I'm going to torture you. That scene doesn't make much sense, but for a horror film, whatever. You're suspending your disbelief. They then go to the graveyard, and Mama kisses Jerry and says that we could have been grand. And then the one girl runs away as Baby hunts her down.
My favorite scene of the movie, just the whole "Run, rabbit, run!" And then fucking Miss Psycho, just fucking with her creepy laugh, just chasing her with a fucking knife.
Yeah. Those are in the graveyard. And then
Did you know that was a reference to Pet Cemetery, that graveyard?
that's cool. The other two are lowered down after Jerry is basically choke slammed.
Yeah.
into the casket. He's just fucking choke slammed by. Is that Tyler Rex? It's I don't think it's Tyler Rex in this film, or not Tyler Rex. Tyler Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do know he does play Rufus in the sequel, which we're going to very quickly here. Then they're lowered down. Jerry is brought to Dr. Satan right away.
Well, it was around this part. I think they. I don't know if this was intentional, but they almost made it seem like that was the end of the movie just because it kind of like blacks out at this point.
Yeah, that would have been an okay ending. I mean, the ending you get where Dr. Satan and Earl are running through. Apparently, Earl couldn't see in that thing. So he's swinging like randomly, and the actor, you know, she didn't get hurt, but she could have. Then basically, Final Girl escapes, is picked up by Captain Spaulding, and he's telling her to, oh, just put your head back, relax. I'll get you to a doctor.
Like, he generally sounds concerned. And this is the point where everyone's just like, oh, Captain Spaulding, what a nice guy.
You find out that he's connected.
Mm-hmm.
And
because that scene scared the shit out of me is when Otis like pops up.
sits up like the Undertaker's.
Yeah, as just there's just something so creepy about him not having that facial hair. It just seems so scrawny and.
Well, this is where we're gonna finish off with House of Thousand Corpses. So obviously, this movie was inspired by Texas Chainsaw.
Oh yes.
This movie was inspired by The Hills Have Eyes. And I know some of you are like, oh, but The Hills Have Eyes came out in 2000. No, you doll creature. The original Hills Have Eyes.
Did you just call them doll creatures?
Yeah. The original Hills Have Eyes that was released in the 1970s.
Based on true events, too.
Yeah. So, and then you have the Manson family, where you get all the old, the odd scenes where a zombie shot in his basement, used in the film, where you have Otis being like, hunting rabbits ain't no harder than, or hunting humans ain't no harder than hunting rabbits. They all run like scared little creatures. Like, all those little scenes were filmed in his basement.
Really?
Now, there are a couple scenes in this film that I believe if you would have taken them out, you know, they would have been better. There's a guy screaming, this is Hell Farm. That scene could have been cut out. The scene, if you're going to cut out an entire character called the Skunk Ape, I think you should cut out everything to deal with the Skunk Ape. That includes those two, the wife and the farmer, for the Skunk Ape, saying he was more creature than man, and all that. I would have just said, okay, cut that out. We don't need to see that. That has nothing to do
It's just
with the
kind of
film.
it's just kind of added in there.
Yeah. There was. This did feel like it did feel like more of a music video. There was a lot of scenes that, you know, going through it, I would have not had so many scenes cut and splice the way he had them cut and splice. But we also have to remember, I've never filmed 112-minute film. You've never filmed something along that. I filmed some short films in media school. This isn't the same as a obvious featured film. So, would he just go back to filming like he would his music videos? Absolutely. But for 112 minutes having that style versus a 4-minute, you know, you can have a lot more creepier stuff in a 4-minute video that doesn't need to be explained. There's stuff in this movie that because there's lost footage will never be explained, like the skunk ape or the this is hell farmer and all that stuff. I would love to see how the film was originally wanting to be shot before studio interference came and told them to cut out a good chunk of the film. I would love to see that, but we don't live in that timeline. Now, any last final thoughts on this film? Because
No, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
Who had the most kills out of the main three? Because I have I have the numbers for the whole series, but I didn't really check out of this movie alone.
Spalding has two. He kills both gas store robbers, but at least he gets the final bullet in. I don't think he kills anyone in this film after that. Otis and Baby would probably have the most kills, but I'm counting Otis as two with the backyard. Would you say that he killed Jerry, or would you say that was a baby kill as well? They were torturing them.
I don't know. What would you say?
Well, I would give Otis at that point 2.5. I would give Baby 1.5. Mama had one kill. The only thing hard is trying to say who killed which cheerleader.
Yeah, because I have it on the wiki here that there's like unnamed people deaths, so I don't know if we would count those because we don't see them on screen, so we can't really confirm that.
That's the thing. So I think Otis would technically win this movie with 2.5 kills. Spalding comes in second with 2 kills at the very beginning. Then you have Baby with 1.5. You have Captain Spaulding with 2. Provided that Denise dies. Captain Spaulding's also at 2. So this is a very close, and I think this is the only time they'll be that close for our kill count, but Otis has 2.5. Disagreements or
No, I'd agree. Because they do say online that he has 14, which he does have the most kills in this movie,
yes.
but we don't see that.
This movie won 3 awards, 2 for supporting characters and 1 for special effects. Wayne Tooth and Mike O'Brien has won those awards, and these awards were given out at the Fantasporto and Van Gogh Chainsaw Paper Awards. The 2 characters that got them, you want to guess which 2 characters got them?
What was your awards again?
Supporting characters. I will give it, there was 1 for a female and 1 for a male.
And this is where I'm not too good. The supporting characters would be example would it be some of the Fireflies or?
Yeah, some of the Fireflies would be.
Oh, well. First one would have to go to Sherry Moon Zombie, I'm assuming.
Alright. And the male one?
Go on, Spalding.
Okay. One of those is correct.
Spalding?
Spalding is correct.
It
Captain
would be Mama Firefly?
Mama Firefly, yeah.
That was my second guess.
Yeah, you almost got both of them on like you almost got both of them. Now I'm throwing away that paper because we don't need that paper because everything has been said about House of Thousand Corpses.
Should we take a break right now?
We're going to take a quick break. just so I can get some water in me because I have been ranting.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be right back. Hang in there.